Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Tent of Abraham. I'm Tamir Kreisman from Jerusalem, Israel, and we continue with Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer. We are in the 7 wonders of the world. This is the third wonder, and this one is called the Gray Man. Chapter 52, 52c. Hallelu et Adonai kol goyim shabechu kol haomim ki gavar elenu chasdo ve'emet Adonai leolam hallelujah. The third wonder. From the day the heavens and the earth were created, there never was a man upon whom gray hairs were given until Abraham came. And yes, this is true. The word for gray or white hairs is called seva. Sin Yud Bet He. This word has even been implemented into the laws of the book of Leviticus, part of making us holy because the Lord our God is holy. From Leviticus 19:32. It says, Mipnei seva takum, you shall rise before a venerable person, and you shall respect the elderly, and you shall fear your God, I am the Lord. In other words, God is signing his name on this. This is a big deal. This isn't just a regular old person. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean an old or older person. That's part of it, yes. But I believe they actually got it right in the translation. Because we see right after, it says, V'hadarta pnei zaken. You shall honor the elderly. So, like the sphera of Hod. Hod is, it's like royalty. You have to treat the elderly with a tremendous amount of respect. Zaken means old, but same letters, zakan, zaken, zakan. Zakan means beard. So this is a zakan. So you can be old, though not be among the seva category. Today, we don't really know the difference. We just respect our elders, or at least we're supposed to. Well, we've also learned that part of the redemption is that we will not live according to this clear command from the Torah, as said in the end-time prophecy from Masechet Sotah. The end of chapter 9 in the Mishnah, it says, Na'arim pnei zkenim yalbinu, zkenim ya'amdu mipnei ktanim. The youth will shame the face of the elders, and the elders will stand before the youth, before the minors, instead of its vice versa. Remember, everything is on its head. All this so you can understand the word on which this teaching is built, seva. So the word they used to translate this was venerable, which means, and I had to Google this, accorded a great deal of respect, especially because of age, wisdom, and or character. That's a good explanation. Abraham had all of these and so much more. A distinguished gentleman with years of experience, wisdom, and grace. Now, what do you mean by the opening verse, you say? Okay, that Abraham was the first man in the world to turn gray? Yes. Our text continues and says, when this happened, all who saw him were bewildered. Like, what happened with your thing, man? All who saw him were bewildered, for they had not seen such a thing since the creation of the world. So, what was it like back in those days? People would age, but they wouldn't look any different. In other words, you could be 50, you could be 250, and you'd look about the same. Remember, Adam and Eve were created at age 20. In other words, they were like just born and they were in 20-year-old bodies. Okay, so they looked 20 their entire existence. So they would keep their youthful appearance because there was no need for any kind of distinction. In the pre-flood days, and even after, in the days of Abraham, people would be born, live, and suddenly die, and this we will discuss in the next class regarding how they suddenly died. But at what point in time did God gift this to Abraham? And that's right, this is a distinguished gift. After the binding of Isaac. We've already discussed that Isaac was like a carbon copy of his father Abraham. The first time we see this in the world of a man is in Genesis 5:3, right? And Adam lived 130 years, and he begot in his likeness after his image, and he named him Seth, right? So that's the first time that we see likeness and image when it comes to the sons. Likeness in deeds and image in appearance. Meaning, after Adam did tshuva, he remained righteous till the end of his days, as did his son Seth. Same thing, he took after his father. As the generations progressed, there was a lessening of the holiness, and father and son were no longer on those same levels, which is why Adam begetting Seth is the first and the last time that it says, Bidumuto ketzalmo, in his likeness after his image. Right? They started lessening. And this should also make you ask, why is it, why this was not said of Cain and Abel, right? And we've discussed this in the earlier teachings. Long story short, Cain looked more like his father from the side of the serpent, meaning he was born as a reptilian-looking humanoid. And still, God loved him. And Abel, though he was the son of Adam, Eve still carried the filth of the serpent in her, and it affected the image of Abel. So none of them, so again, Cain looked more like a reptilian kind of guy. Abel, more so, or a lot less, right? Still had the residue. But Seth was already from the rectified Adam, we'll call it. Now, after they've been expelled from the Garden of Eden, and after Adam did tshuva, both he and his wife, his son Seth, looked exactly like him, and also followed the ways of God. So the Midrash tells us regarding Abraham that the reason that God made Isaac a carbon copy was because there were rumors going around that Isaac's father could have been Avimelech, since Sarah was alone with him. Remember, he took Sarah. Now, why were they saying, oh, it's Avimelech, but it couldn't possibly be Pharaoh? Why could it not be Pharaoh? Because again, she was alone with Pharaoh too. That's when the angel, kicked his butt. Because Pharaoh was black as night. Remember, the Egyptians back in the day, they weren't Arabs like they are today. The Egyptians were part of the descendants of Ham. They were all black. All of them. So if the baby came out, and if Isaac came out, it's like looking a little mocha color, you understand, something happened over here. So he came out not mocha color, right? And so they say, okay, well, she was alone with Avimelech. Maybe he's the father. But now the kid looks exactly like Abraham. There takes away all the suspicion, okay? So Isaac's image laid those false speculations to rest. And as we said, he was righteous just like his father in every way, in addition to becoming the living manifestation of judgment in the world. Abraham was mercy, the aspect of mercy. Isaac was judgment. Perfect balance over there. So when 37-year-old Isaac was walking with his 137-year-old father Abraham to Mount Moriah to give himself to the Lord, they looked like identical twins. And there was 100 years apart, right? And no one could actually tell them apart. I mean, the closer ones to them, of course, yes? Now, we've also learned that Lot, who was Abraham's nephew, looked so much like Abraham, remember, his brother's son looked so much like him, that at first the 4 kings took him captive. They believed that they caught Abraham instead of Lot. We've also learned this. But anyway, Abraham had already made himself known. He made a name for himself, or rather, God made sure to give him a name throughout the whole world. Like God said, I will make your name, go throughout all the lands. Now it was time for Isaac to be recognized. According to God, these people did not seek honor. Abraham's 10 most challenging trials. The final one was the Akedah, right? The binding of Isaac. This was the most challenging trial. It was also Isaac's most challenging trial, since they both needed to be as one, each going against their very nature, right? Abraham had to go to the side of judgment, and Isaac on judgment had to go to the side of mercy. But if father and son look exactly alike, no one would be able to tell the difference, and Isaac would not be able to stand alone, as the man who gave himself to be sacrificed by his own father upon God's request. You see, after they both came down the mountain, Abraham sent Isaac to learn in the yeshiva of Shem and Evil. That's where he was for 3 years, 37. He came back when he was 40, right? That's when he met his wife, Rivka. So while he returned to Beersheba, where he had left his beloved wife, Sarah. So that's where Abraham then found out that Sarah, and then he went to Beersheba. She's not there. Where'd she go? She went to Hebron. He goes to Hebron, finds out Sarah died. Okay? So that very night, when Abraham went to sleep on his way back, he went to sleep that night, God granted Abraham his request. Now let's read what it says in the Midrash. Midrash Rabbah 69. Rabbi Yehuda bar Simon said, Abraham demanded aging. He said before him, Master of the universe, a man and his son enter a place, and no one knows which of them to honor. Because you adorn him with aging, a person knows whom to honor. The Holy One, blessed be he, said to him, As you live, you have demanded a good thing, and it will begin with you. From the beginning of the book until that point, aging is not even mentioned. It's not written over there. It just says, and he lived and he died, and that's it, right? If you read the generations of man from, Genesis 5, and then again in Genesis 11, I believe, until we see Abraham. So, when Abraham stood, he granted him aging, as said in Genesis 24:1. And Abraham was old, advanced in days, and the Lord had blessed Abraham with everything. Ve'avraham zaken. Here we go. Zaken, zakan. That's why zakan, Okay. If God agrees to something, that means that it was a good suggestion, obviously. And of course, it had already been deemed so since creation. So in other words, en chadash tachat hashemesh, like we said, it's already been deemed that this will happen. Abraham is the one that had to unlock that. Now, although it's not written, although it's not within our topic, but since we discussed Abraham and Isaac, let's read on. Isaac demanded affliction. He said before him, Master of the universe, a person dies without affliction. The attribute of justice is outstretched against him. When you bring affliction upon him, the attribute of justice is not outstretched against him. The Holy One, blessed be he, said to him, As you live, you have demanded a good thing, and I will begin with you. Okay, so from the beginning of the book until here, affliction is not written. When Isaac stood, he granted him affliction, and as it was said, it was when Isaac was old and his eyes dimmed. This is what it means affliction. In other words, what was Isaac talking about here? Why would someone purposefully ask for affliction that comes with age before death? Like he said, and as we as students of the Torah have learned, anything that is an affliction in this world, from the smallest inconvenience, like reaching into your pocket and pulling out the roll. Let's say you need the key for your front door and you just grab the keys and you happen to pick the key for the mailbox, right? That is called an inconvenience, and that God did specifically to grant you merit. The more inconvenience we have in our life, the more merit we are granted, okay? So picking out the wrong key, stubbing your toe, and these are like tiny little things that could happen almost on a daily basis, maybe not, but anything that you could think of to be like, oh man, that's from God. So don't be like, thank you, got it. You understand? To stubbing your toe, to everything else up until death itself, all this cleanses us, just like Isaac said. We know from Jacob that when his nephew Eliphaz was sent to kill him by his father Esav, he did not want to transgress the command of honoring his father, meaning don't dishonor your father, but also thou shalt not murder, right? And of his uncle Jacob, no less, who actually taught him Torah. So how did he get out of this predicament? As Jacob said, take all my belongings, and I shall be considered dead. So when a person loses everything, that is God saying, your judgment had been passed, and you have been found guilty of a death sentence. However, I'm giving you a chance to do tshuva while you are still alive. So I will take your belongings, and in the heavenly courts it will be considered as if you paid your due. How many people right now, over the rain of missiles and everything and rockets, they lost everything? You see interviews with people, they're like, I got out with my dog and my shirt and my flip-flops. And of course their phone. And that's all they have, right? That's it. These people are now redeemed. They're like tzaddikim. Their judgment has been passed. They are like angels. They start over. This is an absolute mercy, right? So what Isaac is saying here is part of the aging process. As we get older, we get aches, we get pains, I know, and our body no longer functions as it did when we were young. And all this to elevate the person's status in the world and cleanse them from before they die. So all the judgment doesn't come to them throughout death. They get it spreads out throughout their lives. Because after death, it's already too late. So we'll stop here right now with Isaac, because next class we're going to be discussing Jacob. But you get the idea. The bottom line is this. Anything that God can do to sweeten the judgments that are coming to us, and they are always coming to us. Remember, this is the world of judgments. In any way, this is a good thing, okay? That's why learning Torah is also done with suffering. It says, the Torah niknet be'isurim, living in Israel, niknet be'isurim, through suffering. We live in Israel. How do we know that we're suffering, we're living in Israel? You know, it's not the easiest thing over here. We know that. But there's no other place in the world we'd rather be. Learning Torah. If you could just read the thing and like, oh, look, I know everything. That wouldn't be a thing. But if you learn Torah, and I'm talking about in the Hebrew, not in the English, I'm talking about where you actually understand the truth of what it is that you're reading. You break your teeth. It makes you want to bang your head against the wall sometimes. There's so much going on over there, and it is exhausting, not only mentally and emotionally and spiritually, but also physically. You feel it. God made this so that you should get more merit for learning Torah. He tacks it on just extra over there for you. Because in any case, we are commanded to learn Torah. As our fathers said in Ethics of the Fathers. The sages said in Ethics of the Fathers. Do not boast the fact that a Jew learns Torah. That's what you were created to do. So like, yes, I learned Torah. Oh, so stunning, so brave. Good for you. That's your default position, right? God made it difficult to give you a bit extra, okay? Now, back to Abraham. Rabbi Levitas, Ish Yavne, says, a man from Yavne says, just as a crown glorifies the head of a king, so too does gray hair, Saot Seva, glorify and honors the elderly, as said in Proverbs 20:29. I'm going to read it in English and then we'll see how much of a bad translation it is. The splendor of young men is their strength, and the glory of the elders is a hoary head. Tiferet bachorim kocham, vehadar zekenim seva. There's the word, seva. In fact, way before this event actually took place, it was God who told Abraham of this in the covenant of the pieces in Genesis 15:15. This is what, so in other words, we already see that God said that this would happen before Abraham requested it. So this is all God. Abraham is just like hitting those buttons. But you will come to your forefathers in peace. You will be buried in a good old age. What does the Hebrew say? Ve'ata tavo el avotecha beshalom, ve'tikaver beseva tova. Here we go. And of course, God kept his word, as we read in Genesis 25:8. And Abraham expired and died in a good old age again. Old and satisfied, and he was gathered to his people. Vaigava vayamat Avraham beseva tova, zaken vesavea, ve'asef el amav. Okay, savea is also sated. Abraham lived a full, complete life. Like God said, you will be buried beshalom. Also, shalom is shalem, shlemut, perfect, complete. Everything is good. It's all going to be good. And so you see, my friends, getting old and looking your age is a good thing. As per the request of one of the greatest human beings to have ever graced the face of this earth, as per the will of God. And we know that this is a good thing, because not only by this class that we just had, that getting older and looking older is a good thing, but because the entire Western world is obsessed from undoing this. Okay? We see big events going around. We see women are looking like plastic dolls right now. Men too. I don't even know what's going on over there. Now, obviously, we're not just talking about hair color over here. We're talking about everything from the plastic surgeries to Botox, which, to my surprise and horror, I can't believe this. You know that 12-year-old, 15-year-olds are getting Botox, various fillers. I'm even learning the terminology. It's insane what is happening right now. You walk in the street, 15-year-old girls with it's nuts, but you can also see it's ungodly. Rejuvenating, de-aging, all those creams and all that good stuff. The entire industry in 2024, I had to check this out, generated around $420 billion and is expected to double in the upcoming years. That is insane. Hollywood and the propaganda machine is in full effect, not just influencing the public as far as who to vote for, of course, or who is the villain of the decade. If you look at all the Hollywood movies, all the villains of America, those were all the villains in the movies, obviously. But how we are supposed to look, they tell you. That is enough right there to tell you that it is ungodly, and it is affecting almost everyone from all ages and all walks of life. What God says is a crown of glory, the world chooses to absolutely hide. And what God says to hide, for instance, the married woman's hair, for instance, which is all judgment, which she's only bringing on herself and her husband, right? Is what the world uses as a crown of glory. It's exactly the opposite. Now, do you see how upside down this world is? I hope so. The seva that God granted Abraham was not just gray hairs. It was what they represent. It's not just getting old and having gray hairs. It's who was this man, right? You have plenty of gray-haired fools out there, self-included, sure. It don't make you like Abraham now, does it? Honorable, dignified, kind, self-aware, wise, humble, powerful. This is what we all, self-included, must aspire to become after years of experience, picking and choosing our battles, having a true understanding of what is important and what is mundane, really. I mean, it all comes down ultimately into the face of complete demise. What is important to you? If you're going to die in an hour, are you going to care that someone insulted you? Are you going to care that you had some sort of quarrel with anybody? You see, this is what this age comes with. This is what the gray hairs are supposed to represent. This is what they represented in Abraham. All the mundane, it doesn't matter. It's neither here nor there. It just takes up time and space in your head. The ability to actually see time and be aware of it and how quickly it really moves. My dad told me when I was a kid, I love saying that. My father told me, because he did. He told me some good things. He said, when you hit 40, time is going to start to fly. Now I'm thinking as a kid, I'm like, how, what, why? Only when we're older do we understand that people experience time differently, right? 5 minutes as a kid or an hour as a kid, it'll go by for an adult in a split second, where a kid will feel it's like 5 hours. It depends what they're doing, right? I hated school. I couldn't sit through classes. I just wanted to get out of there. And it was torturous for me, basically. Not surprising to anybody. Anyway, so when we were young, we were rarely present, right? Because we always wanted what was around the corner and never what was right in front of us. I always wanted to get out of class. I always wanted the school year to end so I could look forward to the summer. And then I was always looking for the next year to end. So I never wanted to be where I was. I was always looking for what was next. This was when I was a kid, yes? Time moved so slow. When we were doing something we didn't want to do, but very quickly, like a flash, when we did something we did want to do, right? Go play in the, what did we have back then? Or go, you go to Toys R Us, or you go play in the Gymboree or wherever, as a kid. you just go in and all of a sudden, come on, put your shoes on, we got to go. But we just got here, right? That's the life of a kid. So time moves slow until it didn't. Now, this is nothing new that people experience time differently. That's why a wise man slows down everything. It's also the difference between a reaction and a response. Fools react. Wise men respond, okay? Because a reaction is almost involuntary. So you can train yourself to, doesn't matter what comes at me. This is from God. If I'm getting upset, recognize right now, be in the moment, recognize that you're getting upset. Take a breath, respond accordingly. How? God is always, he's always here, he's ever present. Shiviti Hashem lenegdi tamid ki mimini balemot. God is always present. This is what David said. Because for the first time, okay, slow down everything, because for the first time, he can look back, an old man, look back with 20/20 hindsight and really comprehend the gift that God has given each and every one of us. When that happens, the person becomes ever so present. That's why God is called Hamakom, the presence, the place, because he fills everything. But the way we connect to God is only in the here and now. Because up until it hits you, our eyes may as well be closed, where you get that, wow, where am I? That's the difference between looking at the outside world and then allowing it to come in, affecting our reality, as opposed to the correct way, the Abraham way, when it comes to perspective. And that is that everything I need is right here, so close to me, within me. I lack nothing. And with that confidence, which brings levels of humility, because you know that you're actually cared for, instead of like, I need this, no, you actually really don't. How do you know I don't? Well, because you don't have it. That's how we have to look at these things. So again, with that confidence, which brings levels of humility that are very rare in the world today, I affect my surroundings in the most positive of ways. And this reminds me of one of my favorite Psalms of David. That's Psalms 133. I told you guys this already plenty of times. This is a young man with a very old soul, right? David, he was anointed by Samuel at the age of 28. He passed at age 70. But his years have been gifted to him, his 70 years have been gifted to him from Adam himself. In other words, David is an old soul, but still in a young man's body. A song of ascent of David. O Lord, my heart was not haughty, nor were my eyes raised on high, and I did not pursue matters greater and more wondrous than I. And who is more wondrous than David? Mashiach Hashem, right? This is how we ascend. My heart was not haughty. I have all that I need. Nor were my eyes raised on high. I want everything that I have. And I did not pursue matters greater or more wondrous than I. I lack nothing. Adonai roi velo echsar. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Verse 2. I swear that I calmed and quieted my soul like a suckling on its mother. Like a suckling was my soul with me. I need not concern myself with the chaos around me, but I find peace from within. Remember, distortion, that's how Mashiach comes. All this craziness, this is theater. Do not get lost in it. Find peace within yourself. David did it. He told you exactly how to do it. An infant is not aware of anything outside their immediate proximity. Like he says, they trust completely in their mother to hold them, feed them, and sustain them. So much so that they don't even think about it. They know it. You understand? This is beyond faith. This is knowledge. A child doesn't think about, what am I going to eat for dinner? Who's going to change my diaper? No, it's just their reality. This is how David lived. Amazing if we could come anywhere near that. That is the knowledge of God in the purest of forms. Israel, he says, hope to the Lord from now to eternity. Yachel Israel el Adonai ma'ata v'ad olam. From now, from the present moment you are in. Take this. This is Psalms 133, only 3 verses, please. internalize this, okay? From now, from the present moment that you are in, God is timeless, but we are in time, right? We cannot go back, nor can we venture into the future. And so the only way to truly connect is to remove ourselves from the construct of time altogether. That is where we find God. And that is always and only in the present, in the here and now. That is how Abraham lived, in the here and now. That is how David lived, in the here and now. What is in front of me, that is what God is giving me, and this is what I have, and this is more than enough. Same thing with Abraham. Unfortunately, most of our people don't even know these basics, which is why our state is the way it is. But for Abraham, God decreed the gift of Se7en, the gray, we'll call it, as a blessing. As we read, from the day the heavens and the earth were created, there never was a man upon whom the gray hairs were given until Abraham came. And that's our class. Please pray for the peace of Israel. Hold on tight now. This lull, this is just theater. Wait for the next shoe to drop. And yeah, that's all I'm going to say right now. Anyway, thank you for joining me. Have a wonderful rest of the week and have a Shabbat Shalom. Be safe.